Now let us prepare our hearts and minds for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind.
Breathing into balance, take a breath, let it go. Breathing into focus, breathing into flow. I close my eyes, let peace wash over me. Soft and slow, just breathe. Breathing into balance, take a breath, let it go. Breathing into focus, breathing into flow. I close my eyes, let love wash over me. All is well, just breathe. Breathing into balance, take a breath, let it go. Breathing into focus, breathing into flow. Breathing into flow.
And we do continue to breathe into that balance and that flow, just consciously focused upon the breath. Feeling the centering that comes forth when this takes place. How easy and effortless it is if we are willing just to breathe into that balance. And that balance gives us perspective. That balance gives us energy. That balance gives us peace. And we can approach anything in our life from this place of mindfulness and connectedness and find solutions, find a place of surrender and ease. Yet we must be willing to take ownership of our own willingness to breathe ourselves into that state of beingness. And so what a joy it is to do that now as a community together with others who are in that same state of beingness and have come together this morning for many purposes. And indeed, I invite each one of us to think about what brings us to spiritual community, what brings us back here again and again, what calls us to be present right here, and just be mindful as we breathe consciously of the motivations that allow us to take the time and energy to come into this holy sacred space. And we give thanks for the awareness of how easily those motivations pop into our conscious awareness and show us. And we give thanks that we have followed that guidance this day. whether it was the guidance of someone who invited us here or the guidance of our own inner knowingness that said, I need to be there today. I'm looking forward to seeing my friends, my community, to that connection. I'm looking forward to being reminded of the powerful presence that God is as each one and in this life. All those awarenesses that we have, we just give thanks for them. All those motivations, we give thanks. And with the breath, we breathe ourselves a little bit deeper. I invite us to consider where we find our center to be, the center of our being. Some people feel it in their gut, others feel it in their head space. You might feel it in your heart, wherever it might be for you. Breathe into that deep space. And while we're giving thanks for that which guided us to be here today, I invite us to touch into what some people would call our soul, our higher essence, our deepest self. What purpose has this aspect of us brought us here for today? What is it that we're seeking? Might it be a deepened sense of wisdom? A living embodiment in the divine and as the divine? Solutions and invitations into greater living? Allow those to pour through us now and be open. We continue this service in a state of open acceptance of each other and of all that takes place here. Because in this process, we have come to realize that we've been guided here today. It's no accident that we're here. That each one of us has a place, a seat at this table. And therefore, we are here to partake of the nourishment that is here in this community that comes through every aspect of it. And we are here to give back, even if we don't say a word into the service. Our very presence makes a difference. And we are here for the conscious intentions we have set and for the deeper intentions of our soul and our essence. And so I invite us to imagine ourselves in an open posture, arms reached out, open to receive, while our heart is experiencing the presence of the living waters of the infinite, giving into this beautiful space together. And we are centered in that receivership and in that giving. And our service unfolds perfectly for each one of us. That which we have come for is already made manifest in us now. And so we breathe once again consciously into this space. And step back into our conscious awareness, being fully present for the rest of our service, knowing we are blessed. Every being here is blessed. This service is blessed. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. These are the hands. This is the voice to celebrate the goodness of God. I lift up my hands, I lift up my voice to celebrate the goodness of God. So as we wait, our hearts wide open, fill us, we pray. These are the hands. This is a voice to celebrate the goodness of God. I lift up my hands, I lift up my voice to celebrate the goodness of God. We hear your voice in the silence, a whisper sweet and clear. And it is then that we discover your presence ever near. Ours are the hands, ours is the voice to celebrate the goodness of God. We lift up our hands, we lift up our voice to celebrate the goodness of God. To celebrate the goodness of God. Let's celebrate the goodness of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, it's great to be here with you all today online. I'm really looking forward to a conversation today about oneness. My title of my message Is Oneness Real? And I'm asking us that because we talk about oneness a lot in all of our New Thought traditions, and we seek out the experience of oneness, and our teachers of both unity and science of mind and all the New Thought traditions really leaned into oneness. And I think it's something that we can all agree is probably the truth. And yet, it, as a cornerstone of our teaching, it can be a challenging one to live from or to utilize in our daily life. And so I want to invite us to really talk about how we could prove to ourselves that oneness is real, and then upon proving it, how we could live it, how we could live from it. I did some research from both Science of Mind and from Unity, and of course, the great founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, really taught that oneness is the underlying reality of all existence. They believe that there's one omnipresent, all good power, which is God, and that every individual is an expression of this divine essence. This means humanity is inherently divine and interconnected with God and all of creation. So they definitely have oneness as a pillar of the teachings of unity. In the Science of Mind, my husband and I have been recently, we have a morning practice where we read from a New Thought text, and then usually we read the Science of Mind magazine daily guides. And we've been reading the Science of Mind, which is the textbook, commonly called the textbook in Science of Mind. And a lot of people don't know there was an original textbook that Holmes wrote in 1926. And then he participated with a group of editors to re-edit that book in 1938. Well, my husband and I have been reading the 1926 edition, which I really love, mostly because I think it's reflecting Ernest Holmes' fresh perspective on a number of issues, and oneness is one of them. And he says in that 1926 text, it is well to remember that the enlightened in every age have taught that back of all things there is one unseen cause, In studying the teachings of the great thinkers, we find that a common thread runs through all, the thread of unity. There is no record of any deep thinker of any age who taught duality. I like that because I think I would like to say to us all, there is no record of any life that's ever been lived on planet Earth that was happy and connected and fulfilled that didn't embrace the connectedness of all life, that lived from duality. And of course, what comes from duality is thinking that there are people out there and there are things out there and there's stuff out there. And a lot of times with that out there dualistic thinking, there then builds between us and that perceived threat fear. And there can't be love and fear in the same space. There can't be oneness and duality in the same space. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I've noticed there's a lot of divisiveness going on our planet right now in just about every realm, in spirituality, in medicine, in science, in a lot of conspiracy theories or a lot about the dualistic thinking out there, in politics, in world leadership, in the economic systems. Duality is prevalent. And so I would like to say to us that we will not ever solve our problems from dualistic thinking. But it's really easy to fall into, but it's so horrible, or they're so horrible, or that thing is so horrible. In that moment, I'm in dualism. And I know that it happens. And those of us from this spiritual teaching, I think, are poised to help create powerful solutions for the coming together of our planet in powerful ways. But it'll only happen if each one of us become more willing to notice and nurture oneness. Now, I've noticed in my own journey, a lot of experiences of oneness have been at the core of my spiritual life. I was sharing earlier with some of you that I'm in Vail, Colorado today, and right outside my window, there's a whole bunch of aspen trees. I grew up, my first years were in a little town called Salida, and we had a cabin. My grandparents had a cabin in a place called Garfield. And I would go out into the the mountainous area, find a big, huge grove of aspen trees, and just lie down in the grass and listen to the wind as it flowed through the aspen trees. This was probably from the time I was 4, 5, 6 on, and feel so at one with the earth and so at one with the wind and the trees. And since then, I've had many other experiences of oneness, as I'm guessing a lot of us have at different moments in our life. If I reflect upon all of those, even the most profound moments of just sheer mystic oneness, what has been the outcrop of that has been a feeling of connectedness to everything and everyone. And honestly, even that which, as a human being, I don't like, I wish wasn't in existence on the planet. And yet, oneness, that deep experience, has taken me to the place behind the veil, so to speak, behind the world of form, into the connectedness of all life. It's what's kept me in New Thought teachings. It's what prompted me to choose ministry way back in 1991. It's what has kept me participating and teaching and wanting to serve and support people to continue to develop my own sense of the oneness and connection, and also call it forth in other people. Connection and even compassion have been the result of those experiences. And these qualities are greatly needed to burst forth on our planet right now. And so to have them more powerfully in our own life, I'm suggesting we must practice, cultivate, and believe in oneness and really call ourselves to task in a huge amount of awareness when we find ourselves practicing duality. I'd like to convince all of us today, not just from a place of intellectual understanding, but from a tangible experience of oneness. Holmes also, in that 1926 edition, said some things that really touched me as I read them about oneness. He said, one of the great teachings of Moses was, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." And the saying, "I am that I am," was old when Moses was yet unborn, for it had been inscribed over the temple entrances for generations. We may go back much farther than Moses and find the same teaching, for it crops out from the literatures and sayings of the wise of all ages. Jesus taught this when he said, I and the Father are one, and the saying, the Father that dwelleth in me. This teaching of unity is a cornerstone of the sacred scriptures of the East, as well as our own sacred writings. It is today the mainspring of the teachings of the modern philosophies, such as Christian Science, divine science, the unity teachings, the New Thought movement, the occult teachings, the esoteric or inner teachings, and even much of that is taught under the name of psychology. Without this basic teaching of unity, these movements would have but little to offer. Science has found nothing to contradict this teaching, and it never will, for the teaching is self-evident. So there are some stories amongst New Thought folks that Ernest Holmes had a chance to meet Albert Einstein many years ago. We're not 100% sure of that, but what I see in his writings is he was a fan of science in the 1920s and 30s. He was also a fan of the occult and a fan of spiritualism, which was very prevalent in the 1920s and 30s. And he was a huge fan of oneness. And I think what he's calling us to and what I'm reminding us is that this notion of us being at one with and in and as God has been an ancient awareness that human beings have intuitively known for a long time. Holmes himself would say that there was nothing but God to exist in the universe, and so God created everything out of itself that came into being, into form. It's interesting to note that today scientists, many of them, when they discuss the Big Bang theory that they believe might have allowed this universe to come into being, they often refer to it as the original singularity, talking about how the energy that existed in the Big Bang was dispersed into everything that then formed. And so a lot of people who are walking both the spiritual and scientific lines are saying, hey, we're all talking about the same thing. So I think that, excuse me, Einstein was talking about oneness in his theories, and that physicists and other scientists since then have continued to prove over and over again that this universe is all made up of the same stuff. And one of my favorite, I'm not a physics expert by any imagination, yet I like to study some of the concepts. One of my favorite ones that I think is important today in today's conversation is quantum entanglement. This is the most striking example of interconnectedness in physics. When two or more particles become entangled, they remain connected in such a way that the state of one instantaneously influences the state of the other, regardless the distance separating them. If you've ever read about any of these experiments, they'll take a particle and they'll disperse it to a wide location and then stimulate one or the other, and the particles will react. And Einstein famously called this the spooky action at a distance. I thought that was pretty funny. Spooky action at a distance. This phenomenon defies classical notions of locality and strongly suggests a fundamental non-local connection throughout the universe. So those of us who have a oneness experience, it's interesting because anytime any of us falls into a oneness experience, we make way for other people because we are quantumly entangled with all other human beings. You and I think we came to the unity of Davis service today, and that we did. But here's the truth. Because of quantum entanglement, we will be forever connected to each other. I may leave service today and later on somehow see the face of lovely Dixie Tyler there in my awareness later on. And because we've been connected, feel called to pray for her and send her love and light. We are always interconnected with every person we come in contact with. You go to the Starbucks and stand in line for your coffee and you think you're just there all by yourself getting your coffee. But no, we are quantumly entangled with every barista and every patron of Starbucks there, the person in the drive-through. We are connected. And this means that we are being constantly invited into connection and compassion with every human being, not duality. And what the brain wants to do a lot of times, it wants to look at other people and look at why I shouldn't be connected to them. What's wrong with them? What are they doing wrong? What are they not doing right? What are they messing up? What are they ruining for the rest of us? So we can distance ourselves from them when all the while oneness, quantum entanglement, physics itself, the deep spiritual mystics of the ages are calling us into connectedness. And any of us who then choose love over hate or healing over toxicity make the way for other people to do the same. But we have to choose this. It's vital for our life and happiness, and resistance to it will cause us to not feel happy or connected because it's who we are. It's who we are at the core of things. Last week, a week ago yesterday, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. Went skydiving for the first time, took my first jump. And I was surprisingly not very nervous about it. I'd done a lot of work, a lot of spiritual work, a lot of mind work before I went. But the very last moments while I'm in the plane, sitting there strapped to the tandem guy who was going to jump with me, I suddenly noticed that I could feel his breathing. And I began to breathe with him. And I began to sort of tune into him. And I realized this man has jumped out of planes many times. He's perfectly confident. He's very relaxed. I can tell by his breathing. He wasn't breathing anxiously in any way, shape, or form. So I tuned into him and decided to become one with him. And the minute we jumped out of the plane, I fell into ecstasy and joy. He actually flipped me over in a somersault, and then we began to free fall. We free fell for about 30, 45 seconds, and then he pulled the chute, and then we glided beautifully back down to the earth. It was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever done. But it helped me remember that when I'm afraid, I can tune into oneness. Every challenge that you're going through, some other human being has probably gone through it and triumphed. You can tune into that. You can tune into that at a quantum entanglement level and say, I'm not alone. Even if you feel the most alone and no one's around you and you're struggling or you're confused or you're trying to make a decision or you're wanting to walk forward, you can always tune into the reality that someone else has walked in my footsteps at some point, and I can lean into them. And I will remember that for the rest of my life. It truly served me. So, how can we cultivate our sense of oneness? In the last few minutes I have with us, I've got a few ideas. I hope that I have inspired you to think about it, to contemplate about it, and to pray about it. And that's the first one, of course, spiritual practice. It's the it's the discipline of daily bringing myself into alignment and the experience of the oneness that's pouring through me because no one is left out. You and I, we are never, ever left out of the oneness. That would be impossible. And so our work is to daily, in whatever way serves us. And I will never tell anybody the right or wrong way to do that. For some people, it's their daily walk in nature, or their daily sitting on a bench looking out at the lake, or it's the daily sitting and gazing at the sunrise or the sunset. That can induce a feeling of oneness and connectedness. Of course it can. For others, it's meditation, or it's prayer, or it's a mantra, or it's silence. Whatever it is, seek it out every day. And there's no prescribed right time for it either. No one gets to tell you or me, well, you got to do it for at least an hour for it to really work. No, no, everyone has their space. And I will tell you in my practice, there are some times when I show up for it and boom, I'm there. And other days, it takes a little time. And other days, it's harder than others. It just is. This being human. We have been seduced by the world of form, and we think it's reality. But the reality of reality is it's the invisible oneness that connects us to all. And upon connecting to it, I then do have greater access to wisdom and possibilities and inspiration and energy for my daily living. So that's number one, spiritual practice. Number two, we have to consistently challenge patterns of duality. When we choose not to love, or we choose to put someone out of our heart or our acceptance, we think we're doing this to protect ourselves or that we're doing it because they're just so wrong. But keep in mind what all of the master teachers have told us throughout the ages. If I have someone in my life that I know, or even that I don't know, a public figure, a world leader, and I put them out of my heart in anger and disdain, because of oneness, I put myself in the same place as them. If I put them on an island of my anger and frustration and non-acceptance, because of oneness, I have to be there too. There's no way that I can be in love and oneness and then be pushing people out onto islands of unacceptableness. It doesn't work like that. God doesn't work like that. Love doesn't work like that. Oneness doesn't work like that. So I have to challenge myself into greater love and light. For this reason, for a long time now, I have been sending love bombs to Putin because I feel disturbed by his actions. And so I've been sending energetic love bombs. While everyone is sending hate bombs, I won't do that because I know that won't solve it. If if the world love bombed the man energetically, maybe we could really see some change, but we will not see change with hate bombs and separation bombs and dualistic bombs. And so we must find a way to connect and say to myself, I'm not sure I agree with that person, and that's okay. But in not agreeing with that person at that energetic level that's below the surface, I send love and respect and honor and know that I am connected and seek to see the mirror that they might be being for me. Have I ever behaved in this way? Am I ever tempted to behave in this way? And in this, I can feel oneness and connection. And the last one I will give you is that in one of our early classes we teach in the Science of Mind Beyond Limits, in the very first class, we end by inviting our students to really practice oneness throughout their week by silently looking at anyone or anything that they see in their life or on the news or on television that they are tempted to put out on that island of unacceptance by just affirming, deeply, we are one. And so I invite us now to just take a moment to look at the beautiful faces in this service and to say silently to ourselves and to each other, deeply, we are one. Deeply, we are one. And I invite us to practice that this week. Watching something on the news, deeply, we are one. To feel our oneness and live from our oneness and constantly affirm our oneness. Thank you again for letting me be here. This concludes my message for today.